Bhagavan made him sing M. Ravindra Narayanan. Sharanagati, which means to surrender, is the title of a song composed by one of Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi's greatest devotees, Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer. This song attained great fame and is very popular among the devotees of Bhagavan. Not surprising for the song that has been invested with the unbounded grace of Ramana and has rightly earned for its author the affectionate epithet Sharanagati Tata. The song has over the years served a beacon light for tormented souls. Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer's descendants and innumerable Ramana devotees have not only found solace but also solutions to their mundane and spiritual problems by taking refuge in this song. What kind of person was Sharanagati Tata? What was his place amongst Bhagavan's devotees? What is the legacy that he has left behind? It is important to find out, for such a devotee story would help us understand Bhagavan and his teachings better. It will help us understand how Bhagavan's grace unfolds and engulfs us if only we kept our hearts open and melted with love for him. Ramaswamy Iyer belonged to the Manavasi village in the fertile Tiruchuri district of Tamil Nadu. He was born in a pious family and was brought up in the strict traditions of a Brahmin household. After completing his education, he joined the State Public Works Department as overseer. He was constantly on tour on official duty, Thiruvannamalai being one of the towns on his official itinerary. In 1907, during one of his visits, Ramaswamy Iyer had his first darshan of Brahmana Swami, as Sri Ramana Maharshi was then referred to, at the Virupaksha cave. It was in March 1908 that a great change took place in Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer's life. He was already in his late 30s then. Promoted as supervisor in the Public Works Department, he was transferred to Viluppuram, about 60 kilometers from Thiruvannamalai. Highly impressed with the grandeur of the holy Arunachala hill and the great temple, Ramaswamy Iyer decided to live at Thiruvannamalai and discharge his official duties from there. Gambiram Sesha Iyer, who had renounced his occupation of municipal overseer to be with Ramana and serve him, was instrumental in guiding Ramaswamy Iyer to Bhagavan's holy presence this time, his second meeting with Bhagavan. For many years until then, he had been suffering from severe stomach disorders, which did not yield to medical treatment. He could not sleep well too. Ramaswamy Iyer therefore appealed to Bhagavan to cure him of his ailment. Bhagavan replied that he was neither a doctor nor could he perform miracles. Ramaswamy Iyer felt deeply disappointed and openly expressed his anguish at not being able to secure Bhagavan's grace. Bhagavan then looked at him most compassionately and said, "Whatever it may be, one must ask, to whom is the suffering and what is it that is affected?" While saying this, Bhagavan waved his hand in a peculiar manner. Ramaswamy Iyer could see a flash of light emanating from that divine hand. He felt peace flood his heart, a peace he had never experienced before. That day was the 18th day of the Tamil month of Adi, and being a festive occasion, many devotees had brought specially cooked delicacies. Bhagavan invited Ramaswamy Iyer to partake in the feast, but the latter refused, saying that he was not capable of digesting such sumptuous fare. But Bhagavan insisted and Ramaswamy Iyer had to yield. He ate well and slept profoundly that night after many years of inadequate sleep. He consequently discovered that his stomach problems had disappeared completely, never to recur in his life. Ramaswamy Iyer's relatives, who were averse to his going for Bhagavan's darshan, changed their stand, and his wife and children began carrying food uphill for Bhagavan and his devotees. Immediately after this miraculous cure of his ailment, another momentous incident took place. On his next visit to the Virupaksha cave, Ramaswamy Iyer appealed to Bhagavan. Jesus and other great souls came into this world to redeem sinners. Is there hope for me? Bhagavan got up from where he was sitting and moving towards Ramaswamy Iyer said, "There is hope. Yes, there is hope." Bhagavan's assurance of protection transformed Ramaswamy Iyer's life. It instilled in him a tremendous faith in Bhagavan and made him place his life in his hands. Ramaswamy Iyer possessed adequate knowledge in South Indian classical music. On one occasion in 1908, Bhagavan explained to him the rules of his musical prosody and rhyme that characterize classical compositions. This was quite unexpected, for Ramaswamy Iyer had until then never thought of composing songs. However, he found to his pleasant surprise that he could effortlessly compose. Thus was born this first composition, Dikku Verillai Deenarakshaka, in which he prays for Bhagavan's protection. It is clear that this was part of a grand divine plan. This divine plan had discovered yet another conduit through which Bhagavan's teachings could be disseminated and through which his grace would manifest itself. Truly, it is said that when the all-pervading One descends on earth, he brings with him blessed messengers to spread his teachings and the fragrance of his grace. Thus came a Kavyakanta Ganapati Muni, who announced to the world that he was a true Maharshi, the Lord himself, and who gave us the monumental work Ramana Gita, Sadharshanam, and the matchless hymn of praise Chatvarimsat. A Shivaprakasham Pillai, who was first responsible for bringing out Bhagavan's teachings in his own words, the first Western seeker, F.H. Humphreys, who was a distinguished forerunner to others from the West who came later, and Ichammal and the Mudaliyar Granny, for whom feeding Bhagavan every day was a labor of love. Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer formed part of this illustrious team of devotees in the first decade of this century. Others would also come. Muruganar, T.K. Sundaresa Iyer, Vishwanatha Swami, Devaraja Mudaliyar, G.V. Subbaramaya, Suri Nagamma, Ramaswamy Pillai, Paul Brunton, Arthur Osborne, Major Chadwick, and many others who through literary or poetic works, physical labor, or whatever else their calling would serve Bhagavan and his cause. In Ramaswamy Iyer's case, it was music through which he served Bhagavan and his cause. From the year 1908 to the year of Bhagavan's Mahanirvana in 1950, Ramaswamy Iyer composed about 100 songs in praise of Bhagavan and other deities. His compositions, full of devotion, speak of Bhagavan's teachings, his method of self-inquiry, his unbounded love for devotees, and his guidance and grace. Ramaswamy Iyer served as one of the pallbearers for Mother Aragamma on her Maga Samadhi in 1922. The holy remains were brought from Skandashramam down to the Pali Tirtha and interned there. On the 10th day after puja to the Mathrubhuteshwara Lingam, which was installed on the Samadhi of Mother Aragamma, many devotees began composing slokas in her praise. Ramaswamy Iyer was sitting in a corner unnoticed. Bhagavan called for him and inquired whether he did not think of composing anything. Ramaswamy Iyer wrote a song on a piece of paper and handed it over to Bhagavan. Bhagavan then asked him to sit opposite him and sing the composition. To Ramaswamy Iyer's great surprise, he was able to sing fluently. The melody and the poetry flowed simultaneously from his mouth without a break, in the immediate presence of Bhagavan. Thus was born the beautiful composition Azhagannai in the Raga Vasanta, in which the composer speaks of the mother's glory. Countless have been the instances when Ramaswamy Iyer encountered personal problems. In every case, an immediate solution has been the result, thanks to Bhagavan's grace. Some of these incidents are worth narrating for the simple reason that they affirm our faith in Bhagavan and cement our devotional ties with him. When Ramaswamy Iyer was living in Berhampur in the year 1914, he once suffered from boils all over his legs. The pain and the agony were too much to bear. All systems of medicine were tried, but no avail, and even surgery proved futile. Bouts of fever would often occur, compounding the problem. Ramaswamy Iyer was constantly doing Arunachala Smarana, repetition of the name. One early morning, there was a knock on the door. There were two visitors from Tiruvannamalai. They informed Ramaswamy Iyer that they were on a pilgrimage to Kashi and that Bhagavan had instructed them to meet him on the way at Berhampur. Ramaswamy Iyer was overwhelmed at Bhagavan's concern and care. The pilgrims to Kashi learned of his ailment and applied an indigenous medicine which they had brought along. The next day, the boils had completely disappeared and Ramaswamy Iyer was relieved of the agonizing pain. Immediately after this, as an expression of his heartfelt gratitude, Ramaswamy Iyer composed the song Sharanagati. Bhagavan was instrumental in fixing up the marriage of Ramaswamy Iyer's eldest daughter Rajammal. Once, he asked Ramaswamy Iyer whether he did not think of planning for the marriage of his daughters. The great devotee Ichammal, who was present then, suggested to Bhagavan that a young man known to her would make an ideal husband for Rajammal. Bhagavan immediately approved and asked Ramaswamy Iyer to make all arrangements. Ramaswamy Iyer hesitated at first as he felt he did not possess the means to conduct a decent marriage. However, Bhagavan's words had to be obeyed. Trusting completely in Bhagavan, he went about the task with enthusiasm. Bhagavan himself fixed the Muhurtam, the auspicious date and time for the marriage ceremony. Bhagavan's devotees and many of the Sharanagati Tatha's friends offered timely help and the marriage was conducted properly. This incident is significant from two angles. Bhagavan, in reply to a question by Paul Brunton, has said that the Sadguru takes care of not only the devotees' spiritual needs but also their worldly necessities. The minutest incidents of a devotee's life have received the loving and pointed attention of Bhagavan. This incident also underscores the fact that once a devotee places his life in Bhagavan's hands, the devotee himself comes to possess tremendous faith in him and his protection. He then leaves everything to Bhagavan and lets things take their own course. Ramana, devotees owe a lot to senior devotees like Ramaswamy Iyer, who have shown that it is possible to live a beautiful life bereft of sorrow and anxiety once one surrenders to Bhagavan and accepts him as the only refuge. The last months of Bhagavan's earthly life saw him confined to the tiny room now called the Nirvana room, opposite to the Matrabhutheshwara temple. During these last days, every devotee received his share of immense grace that flowed from Bhagavan. An incident concerning Ramaswamy Iyer has to be recounted for understanding the magic that was Bhagavan's grace and for understanding the beauty that underlined Sharanagati Tatha's total surrender. A few days before the Mahanirvana, Ramaswamy Iyer's wife, Srimati Subbulakshmi, was stung by a scorpion. Instead of calling a doctor or rushing her to the hospital, as the other members of the family were desperately wanting to, Ramaswamy Iyer ran to Ramanashramam. Bhagavan had to be told first. At that time, there happened to be no one with Bhagavan except an attendant. Ramaswamy Iyer went to the western window of the room and informed the same to Bhagavan. The most significant aspect of this incident is that Ramaswamy Iyer did not even bother to notice whether Bhagavan had heard him or not. Bhagavan had been told and he would take care. Without waiting for Bhagavan's reaction, Ramaswamy Iyer went back home. His wife recovered within a few hours, without recourse to doctors or medicines. Such was the faith that Sharanagati Tatha had in Bhagavan. Small wonder then that his Sharanagati song stirs myriad emotions in the heart and caresses the soul of listeners. A miracle wrought by a rendering of this song has been recorded. Sri T.K. Sundaresa Iyer's daughter-in-law was living in Kanpur. Her residence was on the third floor of an apartment building. Water scarcely reached the taps on that floor and they had to bring water from the ground floor of the building. This work was done by her husband. One day, when she was very much agitated over this problem, she began singing the Sharanagati song. Water began to flow from the tap and she could fill her vessels. Surprised and thrilled, she repeated the song. Again, water flowed from the tap. Thereafter, whenever she sang the song, water would flow from the tap and stop when the song ended. She demonstrated this miracle to her husband and later to her father when he visited her. All other songs were tried by her but were of no use. Bhagavan himself has narrated this incident to several of his devotees. During his career in the PWD, one of Ramaswamy Iyer's superior officers would taunt him saying that for the work he was doing, he did not deserve the salary, which was 150 rupees per month. When he told Bhagavan about it, he exclaimed, "Does he feel 150 rupees is too much? What would he say if you got 200 rupees? The next government gazette announced a promotion and a salary increase to 200 rupees for Ramaswamy Iyer. Bhagavan had even during the Virupaksha cave days instructed Ramaswamy Iyer to recite the Ribhu Gita regularly and also follow the path of self-inquiry which he taught. Following Bhagavan's instructions to the letter, Ramaswamy Iyer could perceive tremendous changes taking place within himself. He firmly believed that Bhagavan had taken total charge of his life and was responsible for him to evolve not only as a composer of excellent merit but also into a fine human being and a spiritually strong person. After Bhagavan's Nirvana in 1950, Ramaswamy Iyer found it impossible to compose even one song. He said that his voice was stilled and his imagination made immobile. He has composed songs in praise of Matrabhuteshwara and goddess Yogambika enshrined in Ramanashramam, on Arunachaleshwara and on various other deities. All his 5 daughters have carried on his legacy and popularized his songs. Sharanagati Thatha passed away in April 1962 at his son's house in Madras. A saga of surrender, of love expressed through music, came to an end at the age of 90. Old devotees remember Ramaswamy Iyer as an outgoing and cheerful personality who, even in his late 80s, would walk along the streets of Tiruvannamalai with his support stick, eager to teach his songs on Bhagavan to anyone who cared to learn them. His compositions are being sung by his descendants and other devotees. Ramaswamy Iyer's devotion and love for Bhagavan, his invaluable service to his cause through music, and his total surrender to Bhagavan make his life worthy of study and emulation. I have given a free translation of 3 of Manavasi Ramaswamy Iyer's songs below. Dikku Verillai Deenarakshaka, Raga Kamboji. Pallavi. There is no refuge, Arunachala Ramana, O protector of the weak. Anupallavi. You are surrounded by your devotees who are silent bees, intoxicated by tasting the nectar of your presence. Charanam. Totally scorched by the heat of my ego, I have forgotten my true self. Your grace is the best medicine to rid the world of ignorance and suffering, O embodiment of compassion. Like the baby lion which out of ignorance joined a herd of goats and had to be shown its true identity by its mother, you have revealed to me my true nature by granting me your protection. Therefore, there is no other refuge, Arunachala Ramana. Tudikka Ariyen Ayya, Raga Ananda Bhairavi. Pallavi. I know not the ways of worshipping you, the perfect embodiment of grace, who is always in the transcendental state, the Turiya state. Anupallavi. You are the one who, pouring cool waters upon the boiling cauldron, the mind sows the seed of perfect knowledge in the heart. Charanam. With a melting heart full of love and joy, and shedding tears, I look up to you. I see you enter and take a total possession of my being. I forget myself and wholly give myself unto you. You are formless, yet for us you appear with a form, O all-pervading one. Suffering humans, having no other refuge, have come in millions and wept at your feet. Such a huge volume of tears has concentrated to form a red mole in your feet. The divine feet, which even great saints have found impossible to attain. I know not the ways of worshipping such a one. Old devotees might remember that Bhagavan had a red color mole on his right leg. This song refers to this mole. Sharanagati, Raga, Navarosh. Pallavi. I surrender unto thee. There is no other refuge now. Please protect me. Anupallavi. You are the Lord of Arunachala who grants mukti even if merely thought of. O Ramana, you are the embodiment and the rain cloud of compassion. Charanam. This is the appropriate moment to grant me the glance of your grace. If you delay, what am I to do? Please remove my sorrow and grant me bliss. I cannot bear your indifference any longer. O Ramana, the embodiment of Brahman, I surrender unto you. Om Shri Ramanarpanamastu. Self-surrender is the same as mind control. The ego submits when it recognizes the higher authority of the Atman, the Self. This is the beginning of surrender. Although The ego cannot exist without the self, yet, due to its ignorance of this fact, it remains rebellious and acts on its own initiatives and by its own will. True surrender is the melting of the ego in its source, the heart, the self. Bhagavan Sri Ramana.